It's called Smut. Give me smut and nothing but a dirty novel I can't shut if it's uncut.
I do have a podcast thought that I've had since the last time we did this. So this has not been in my mind. It has, but not as much since the last time I was here. But is there a scene that has stuck in your mind that you've read before and it's not because it was like, it could be because it was so good, or it could be because like that was fucked up, but you can't stop thinking about it, because I have one.
Okay.
And I wrote it down last time and I don't have it with me. I think it's called like Total Obsession by S. Massery, or Secret Obsession, one of the two. And it's a series. It's like the third. It's a standalone in a series, if you will, about hockey players.
Oh.
But it's like dark.
Okay.
And it's great. And there is like it's one of those things where it's like a full page of trigger warnings. And in this one, they always fall asleep with him inside of her.
Doesn't that happen in Butcher and Blackbird as well?
Probably, but this is every time. Like I read this before Butcher and Blackbird, and so I think
every time.
This is the one. And I don't know. It's every time. It's like a slight. He basically, like, in not so many words, she used to date his brother. He always was in love with her, and he's like kind of mean, but like she likes it, and this whole thing. And he's like, "Get in bed, you're sleeping over." And she's like, "Okay." And he like inserts himself, and she's like, "I can't fall asleep like this." And he's like, "You're gonna fucking have to."
That's just
like,
how they fall asleep. There's not even any sex. That's just how they fall asleep.
I don't. Sometimes there's sex, but sometimes it's just like, no, this is how we sleep, and then they stay that way, which I'm like, that's not possible.
Like a plug-in situation.
Like a plug-in situation.
It is possible, but we don't have to get into how
But,
I
like,
know that.
No, to stay asleep the entire night and not move. Oh my God. Well, we'll talk about this off air. But like, so that has always stayed with me, because I was just like, that would be so, I'm already so hot with someone else in my bed.
That's fair, yeah.
Imagine them wrapped around you, inserted inside of you. So basically cock warming. But
I mean,
asleep.
it is a recipe for an instant yeast infection.
That's all I could think about. I'm not even kidding you.
Again,
From
we
the
don't need to talk
moment
about
you
how I know
started.
that.
But long story short, is there something that has stuck with you, either because you're like so hot, or oh my God, for some reason it's just in my mind forever and I can't stop thinking about it in a weird way?
I mean, it's got to be priest, them fucking on the altar, because
anointing with oils.
Yes, like using the holy oil as lube.
That happens so quick in that book, and I'm still not over it.
I thought you were going to say
So
that happens all the time.
And now I truly cannot enter a church. I cannot enter a church without thinking about it I think about it for a second, but it always pops into my head.
Any church, or just Catholic churches?
Any church with an altar.
I think about it all the time because there's automatic like lust. I'm already like, oh God, not another priest situation, which I had no problem with the book. I just could not, like, it felt like somebody slapped me across the face, because it was like lust. Oh,
I famously
lust, and then
have
sex.
an issue with that book.
Yeah, she does.
I cannot finish it because he's not good at his job.
He's not.
I don't like it. Be better at your job.
All right, that's a competency kink if I've ever heard one. Well, the entirety of what's that book where it's a mafia romance that everybody's like, you should read this if you want something.
Which one?
I know. It's like they're about to list.
Oh, is it Den of Vipers?
Yes.
Den of Vipers.
I think that like the moment, I'm still mad at the person who was like, you should read this.
Oh, it's so bad.
It's always logistics with me.
Yeah.
I go, that can't be nice. That can't.
Yeah, it's where you've got to think about it, and you're like, is she having fun?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Speaking of like things that like you can't stop thinking about, I was going through a dark timeline.
Yeah.
And all I needed was a book that was gonna be good. You know what I mean? Like not just an okay book, not just something that's like crosses something off the list, but something that was gonna feed my soul.
Yeah.
And I found This Fatal Kiss.
Oh.
And it is a polyamory, like it was a poly group story told right, and it was so good.
Nice.
And I am so happy with it. And I'm like, this is gonna make the top tier books of 2023 for me.
Love that.
Like it soothed this part of me that was like really broken at the time, and I'm like, I just need a romance book to escape everything.
Yep.
And this was it. It was
so nice.
you know, an uptight boy, a fun, flirty girl, and the boy who's perfect and in between. And like, and then on top of it all, there's fairies and mermaids and
Nice.
And no, there wasn't fairies. There's mermaids and it all is Eastern European folklore.
Ooh, okay.
It's so good, guys. Please go.
Yeah.
It's so good.
Yeah.
But like reading books and having these expectations, and I know like as an adult, I'm like, this is a book. This is not real life.
Right.
Like this is someone writing this, and it is an ideal thing, and blah blah blah. But I do find myself, especially now being like more single, not less single, but more single, like being like, why can't I just find a man who adores me and can tell all my needs and like buy me a library and like just
buy me a library.
I just want someone who's obsessed with me and has been watching me for like a year, but like in a cute way, not a stalkery way.
Girl.
Yeah, but okay.
Girl.
A book recommendation for that is Lights Out. It was very much it was very much one of those I've been watching you, I know everything you like kind of romances where at first you're like, eeky. And then it's like, well, I mean, you explained away the ick. I don't know if that is how it works in real life.
Right.
When I say watching, I meant like from behind the stacks in the restricted section.
I'm sorry.
We grew up together.
Still ick.
I never said I was okay. I never said it was healthy. Speaking of being
That's
unhealthy, welcome to Femmes Reading Phil. I'm Emily.
I'm Jess.
And that's Andrea.
I can't breathe. Sorry. That was actually perfect.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I decided to do a different thing. Did you hear it?
I did hear it. That's why I looked at you.
Thank you.
In such a way. We're here. It's episode 4.
Yes.
Which it feels like 5 or 6 for some reason. I keep thinking we're further in, but we are halfway through.
We hang out a lot and talk about books.
I know, and I love it.
And we've had some bangers already.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've had a hell of a season already.
Yeah,
so
it's been
makes
good.
sense.
We're back with secret societies.
Yes.
I hate secret societies.
So,
Tell us why.
Yeah.
It feels like you are stuck between a book about the secret society or a book that is not going to tell you about the secret society, but will let you know that it's a lot of romance. Straight to it. No questions. Don't hold back. 90 miles per hour. And then you're sitting there going like, why did we even need this here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's like the last 10 minutes of plot so they can work up to the second book. It's like, why did you do this to me?
Yeah.
Reading for this, I did realize that because I do enjoy it, but I don't read a lot of them.
Yeah.
So when I just read one, I'm like, oh, that was fun. And then I move on. So trying to find a book for this in which I had to like taste test quite a few, I was like, that is exactly what it was almost every time.
Yep.
And so like I found something that's slightly different from what I originally thought I would be doing.
Yeah.
But I hear that.
I did the same thing. And I found it was the same thing where either it was a one shot that was just smut or it was a like 150,000 word epic. And then I kind of broke my own rules because I had to find the middle ground, which was looking at a fandom that already had a secret society in place, because I was just like, I cannot do the groundwork on this episode of establishing a fandom and a secret society and a story. I just can't do it.
I'm so sorry that I even brought it up because I now realize how much legwork I probably put you guys through. But honestly, like it is it's so common. It's so much more common than you think it is, especially when you start looking through all of the stories that you're getting. And it's like it feels like every single time, especially if you're going as hard into fantasy, like you want romantic fantasy like I do. Like it kind of feels
romantasy is what it's popularly
romantasy.
Fantasy.
My bad.
I love romantic fantasy.
Romantic fantasy is funner.
Fun, yeah.
Might be, but either which way, like, you know, I don't want to sit there and have you, the author, try to convince me that I need to like this.
Right.
Yeah.
And like, here's the thing. I feel like you get one that does it just well enough that you're like stoked for the next one. And I'm trying to think like
that's what I was gonna ask. Are there any that come to mind?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that one. Give me a second. I'm so sorry.
Well, there's one that immediately came to mind for me because I had the same thing where I was like, again, I don't read them all the time, and when I do, I get into it, but then like sometimes I'm like, nah, I'm not gonna read the second. And sometimes I'm like, I have to wait for the second now. So like The Ritual by Chantal Tessier was something that I read being like, that was like dark but good.
Okay.
And
Did you read that for this or just
I tried and I think it was it's a little too much.
Okay.
To talk about and describe.
Got
It's
it.
heavy, but also it's good. But there's a lot of things that are like not fun to say about it. Like about the bylaws of how like the lords pick their chosen one and how it's like you own this person, but they choose to be owned, so it's consensual. So
Yep.
there's a lot of gray area there, and it's weird sometimes.
The one I was thinking about was Ninth House.
Oh,
by Lee
I did
Boudreaux.
not read that. Is it good?
I really enjoyed it, but there were some really dark themes to it that I
Yeah.
kind of had to choke down, I
Yeah.
feel. And I don't love using that terminology because I want to fully enjoy my book.
Right.
But sometimes I feel like a lot of authors, when it comes to Secret Society, really rely on the backstory and the backbone of their characters having trauma or having something that makes them special or unique. That way
They
this
grew
is
up this way.
that
Yeah.
way they're the outlier of the secret society, and that's hard for me to get through, but she did such a cool job building
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That I was like, all right, I can get past it, you know,
Yeah.
kind of thing. But I find that that's usually the case with secret societies, is that they really rely on the I'm not your normal girl.
Right.
You know, like,
You're special for a reason.
yeah.
Yep.
Well, the one that I did in 2 days' time because I did another one and forced myself to summarize it and then realized that it would be really hard to tell because of all the backstory.
So much backstory.
So I did force myself to summarize it and then went, I can't do this. And
Yeah.
pick something else.
I'm so sorry.
I started like
guys.
3.
It's
No, we do
fine.
this to ourselves.
We
It's
do
not
this
you.
to our- I could have done that one.
We have our. Yeah, I could have done the ritual.
You have
and-
your standards, and you're not going to
Exactly.
settle until you give me what I deserve.
We were drunk on Friday and talking about it, and I went, "Oh no, I have to redo everything." That's what it was.
I want you to know I really have been looking forward to this. This was my bright light.
Thank you,
Aw,
dear.
I
Like-
hope.
Did you do any research? Because I didn't.
As we started this, I didn't do any research.
didn't do any
But also,
research.
like, people know what a secret society is. It's a group of people that are subsect from the general population who have a shared common goal or interest, and there are usually rituals or
They're operating on the outskirts of society and influencing things, and
Yes.
we don't even necessarily know what they're influencing.
there are sometimes trials that they have to endure to show their loyalties to said
Secret
subgroup.
Society, if you want to join it.
So, famous things, the Illuminati.
Illuminati.
We respect you. Don't come after us. Freemasons back in the day. I'm sure we're secret, I think.
Yeah.
The Babysitters Club was a
even
secret
like
society.
I saw a couple that were even like
Secret Society of the Sisterhood of the IS Sisterhood is one.
I saw a few fics that were even like the Harvard what are they called?
The
Clubs. The really prestigious
Harvard pudding? No. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I'm thinking of the Social Network when he
you-
wants to get into one of those.
It's like a frat.
fraternities. Yeah.
It's like a frat, but it's older
secret
than that.
frat.
Yeah.
And then everyone knows about the frat, but the whole idea is like you're joining this organization of very powerful people, and you now are one of those powerful people. And like there's all these conspiracy theories that like certain organizations of these, you know, have influenced presidential elections because
Which is a
so and
huge-
so was a member or whatever.
Huge theme in Kindle Unlimited books, by the way. So, unlike other tropes, when you search secret society romance, hundreds of books come up.
Yeah.
But they're all of the same vein. They're really dark. There's a lot of like ownership, a lot of BDSM-y stuff, a lot of like proving yourself by like maybe killing someone.
Yeah.
Ruh-roh,
Like,
what
yeah.
did I suggest?
I had a
So-
lot of like assassins, spies,
Yep.
secret agents.
But it's always like, and these people go on to be judges, senators,
Yep.
the presidents, like international affairs. It always starts in college, usually. Like
Yep.
that's a big thing in a lot of literature. So I tried to read about 3 other ones, and then I was like, you know what? No, I gotta like go off of this. And I found one that's a little more like it's a little more of a stretch, but it still works.
Yeah.
And so I guess what I'm also trying to say is I did not pick a normal secret society Kindle Unlimited. So
I think I appreciate that after you
Yeah.
told me the trigger warnings of the other ones.
Yeah.
To be
Oh,
honest
yeah.
with you.
Oh,
Like,
what
because
are the trigger warnings of this one? Vomiting is or Kim Grossman. If you're listening, don't listen to this. And
Mine
like
is just
I
violence.
love you, Kim.
Violence in general for mine.
a toxic family for mine.
Mine too.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Are you going first or am I going
I
first?
think I'm going first
All
because
right.
you went first last time. Yeah, with
with
pirates.
our flag means death.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you ready?
I am so excited and ready.
Great.
Also, I read this. Like, I didn't pull it up. I have to do that. I read this like last week, and then we've also been reading another book. This will come out by that time, but for our Halloween live show. And so I skimmed my notes today.
Yeah.
But there might be some surprises in here for me. And so,
Me too. Same note
excited.
for me and mine. Yeah.
So I read The Initiation by Nikki Sloane, who is an author that I adore.
I was just about to say, I remember you saying Nikki Sloane before.
And because back, I think it was first season, I read something called like 3 Simple Rules. And the first one was free. I think you had to end up buying it. But it's about like these women who work in maybe a secret society, I guess, like a sex club. And it's actually great writing. It's really hot. And it is probably, I think, one of the first things I bonded with Sammy Mole, sister of the pod. So when I saw her name, I went, "Ooh, this should be good."
Yeah.
I did not write down how many pages it was, nor when it came out. So that is for you to find out. But
Google it.
It's one of I believe it was 5 books in a series, and it does kind of leave off at a cliffhanger. I don't know if I'll get to the cliffhanger because I hated the cliffhanger.
Oh no!
But we'll see. So I wrote trigger warning vomiting for Kim Grossman. Marist. Marist.
That's the first name?
Yes.
I
Cool.
thought you just hadn't finished your thought.
Marist or Marst?
IST.
Okay, that's better.
It is her mom's maiden name, is her first name.
Her mom shouldn't have done that to her.
That would be great for me. I would just be Crone.
I would be callous.
I'd be
Callous and Crow.
We would be such a good law firm.
I'd be Wangro.
Callous, Crone, and Wangro. I think honestly,
that is a really good law firm name, guys.
So Marist is the sister of Northcott. Marist Northcott and Emily Northcott.
Damn, okay.
Marist is 20, Emily is 21. They are sisters. Then they grew up in society. So Hamptons, New York kind of stuff. Marist is a little more like, I have green hair and I just want to be like the wallflower, but like I like what I like. And Emily is the older one, the society gal, was raised to be like, I'm going to be at all the parties. I know who I'm going to marry one day. This. They're on their way to the Hale residence for a party. It's a big night for Emily, and Marist doesn't want to be weird and fuck it up. So she loves her sister. They both love each other. And she's like, I just got to be on good behavior, and then I can slink away and just like be by myself because I don't like parties.
And this is a modern romance, right?
This is a modern romance.
Okay, because whenever I hear society, I just imagine those Coke girls, like the vintage Coke painted women. I don't know why. It's a problem in my brain.
I'm thinking like this happened last month in the Hamptons kind of thing.
Gotcha. Okay.
Actually, I think it takes place in somewhere in Massachusetts.
Gossip Girl.
Gossip Girl. Yeah.
All right. Gotcha.
This party is for Royce Hale, Royce.
I knew a Royce in high school. Royce was one of my best friends.
Really?
So, yep, not wrong with me.
I can only think of Prince Royce.
Prince Royce.
Prince.
The party is for Royce Hale, who just graduated Harvard, and he is the son of his dad.
Did you write down he's the son of his dad? No, he is the son of his dad.
Wait, side note, I just listened to How Did This Get Made, and they did Trap by M. Night Shyamalan, and in it, the guy goes, I'm her uncle, her mother's brother. I think, why did he have to explain what an uncle was? So he is the son of his father.
Right.
McAllister Hale. And he is the owner of Hale Bank and Holding, which is the biggest company in maybe the world, definitely that area, or like on Wall Street kind of thing. And their dad is, the Northcott's father is most likely about to join the board, which is a very prestigious thing. And he's been working for HBHC is what they call it. Wait, why is the C? Company? Doesn't matter.
Banking company?
Yeah.
That's a real thing.
He's been working there for like 15 to 20 years. They're like, he will ascend. And it's kind of an unspoken thing that Emily and Royce were going to get married one day. And and Marist is like, ugh, I hate all this. Like, I know this is for Royce. Like, he's kind of, I don't really like Royce. I don't really want to be here, but I'm here for Emily. So after like an hour of schmoozing with people, Emily kind of gives her the nod of like, go ahead. And so she goes upstairs and like finds a library and sits down. And she pulls out a book that she's reading, which is a mythology book.
Interesting.
Which I was like, oh, I get this.
On the nose, but okay.
And she is so involved in it. She's been there for maybe 30 minutes reading and does not hear Royce come into the library. He has thick, wavy brown hair. He's tall with hypnotic blue eyes. And he basically starts bugging her, being like, what are you doing up here? Like, and she's like, isn't it your party? Like, I don't really like parties. He's like, I don't like parties either. You know, what are you reading? And he's like, just bugging her.
Very charming.
Yeah, very charming. And they start talking about myths and about Medusa. Fun. And he's like, you're kind of like her. And she immediately goes on the defensive, being like, you know, she's actually supposed to be really beautiful in the myths before she is turned into a monster. And if you don't know that story, go ahead and read Mythos by like Stephen Fry. It's a great retelling. And he's like, wait, you don't think you're beautiful? That's not what I meant. I meant that like you can just look at someone and they kind of stop in their tracks and like they kind of become stone. Like men,
fine.
Like he basically
Royce.
Said something like that, like in so many words. And she goes, well, you think I'm a nobody. What are you fucking talking about? And he's like, what? And she's like, in high school, you called me a lame nobody. And she like retells this story about how they all went out one night and they ended up going to a diner afterwards. And he like, she walked in and he was at a booth saying like, oh, Marist, she's a fucking lame nobody. Like, I can't believe she was even here. And I guess for the rest of high school, that labeled her as like a pariah. Aww. So she did not have dates. She had like a couple friends, but like people didn't want to be associated with a lame nobody. He goes, well, that was a long time ago. I was wrong. She's like, go find Emily. I don't really want to be with you. And he's like, well, she's not the one I want. And then it's kind of this game of like, call me on my bluff, because there is a lot of sexual tension because she's like, God, he's so fucking annoying, but damn, he's so hot. And I've never had a guy come after me before, and like this. So she's feeling all these things, but she's also like, I hate this guy. Yeah. And the tension ramps up, and he's kind of walking her back towards the bookshelves, and he finally leans in and she leans in and they kiss, and then they mac hard, and and they're just like going at it hardcore, making out. And in the back of her mind, she's like, this is bad. I feel bad. This is the person Emily is supposed to marry, my sister who I love. I don't even know if she likes him. I can't remember, but oh my God, his lips feel amazing, and this is so fun. I don't know what to think about this, but I just want to keep doing it. And he pushes her further against the bookshelf and is seducing her and is like, do you want this? And he waits because consent is sexy. And she's like, yeah, I want this. And I call this one number one, was this book written for Emily? This girl loves mythology. She's getting macked hard in a library against the shelves. And he fingers her. Right. And as they're making out, and she comes and he says, he goes, this is mine now, and you will wait for me. Do you understand? I get to be the first Marist. No one else touches you. She's like, okay, sounds good. And then he's like, all right, gotta go to the party. And they like part ways. And she's like, wow, that was hot.
I don't trust Royce.
1 year later.
Damn. That's okay. Like, you remember how I said that in Secret Society books, it is all very fast, and then all of a sudden, and then it's like, and now the plot.
Yep. Here we are.
So Emily has food poisoning, which sucks because McAllister and Royce are coming over for lunch. Marist is trying to help her sister, and her mom comes in and she's like, I need one of my daughters downstairs. Will you just come? And so Marist puts on the dress Emily was intended to wear and now has to represent both of the children. And she goes down for this lunch, and McAllister is very like scary. He's like a scary guy. Like, just anything he says goes. He has all the power. Everyone knows it.
With a name like McAllister, for the record, villain name.
Very much.
Villain name.
I might call him Mac later, just cause. Yeah. And Royce is there, but Royce is like barely looking at her. But every time he does, he does like a, with his eyes, like a whole scope of the body.
Interesting.
And she's a little Mac. She's like, I've been waiting a year for this motherfucker. Like, I have not had sex with anyone, and I haven't really heard from him. But also, like, as far as I know, him and Emily finally went on a date together. And Emily was like, I don't like him. You know, like, it was, so she's like, so I don't feel bad about lusting after him now, but like, what the fuck? So as they're having this lunch, McAllister announces that Royce, at 25 years old, will be joining the board, and that Emily and him should finally get married. And this is a big, like, gasp moment because they both thought that Marist thought that her father would be joining the board next. So it's unheard of to think that a 25-year-old will be joining. Mm-hmm. But there is a rule in which no one can be over 60 on the board. It's to, like, keep it fresh and young and stuff. And so she's like, maybe that's it. I don't know, even though her dad isn't that old. And Marist is like, okay, Emily should be down here for this conversation if you're going to make her marry someone. So her mom is like, go bring her down. And she's like, all right. She goes up and brings Emily down, who is, like, clearly ill. Like, she has put on jeans and a shirt, and she's, like, you know, dead behind the eyes. And she goes up to Mr. Hale, Mac, and is like, hello. And as she reaches out to, like, shake his hand, promptly proj voms all over him. And she's like, oh, my God. And she runs back upstairs. He's like, oh, my God. And everyone is in an uproar. The parents are like, oh, my God, we'll clean you up, blah, blah, blah. They all go away. And Royce is sitting there and is like, dude, she's totally pregnant. And they're like, wait. And Marist is like, no. That's my best friend. She would have said something. And goes, I bet you anything she is. Go upstairs and ask her. And she goes upstairs, and Emily is just sitting on her bed being like, I think I'm pregnant. I'm 3 weeks late. And I slept with my professor in college. And she's like, God, what? And so
that's a lot of information.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so she goes downstairs kind of in a daze. McAllister reveals to Marist, because he's, like, now a little pissed. And he's like, well, she's definitely not getting married to Royce, because she kind of confirms it to everyone. And McAllister reveals to Marist that her family is in a ton of debt. And he is like, that's why I wanted one of the daughters, because your name still means something, but your father made a lot of terrible financial choices a couple years ago. You're in, like, a double mortgage, whatever. I own everything you have. So, like, I need us to, like, link our families together. And so they basically like make a deal. And it's that if she marries Royce, for him to be on the board, he does need a wife to play a part in the ... initiation.
Okay.
He will forgive the debt and let the parents keep this, like, mansion that they live in. And she counters because she's also finishing up college as a economics and, like, finance person. So she, like, knows money.
I have very suspicious dog eyes right now about this all.
So she counters and is like, okay, I will marry Royce. You'll do that, and you'll pay us $5 million.
Damn.
And as, like, a reverse dowry. And he's like, the fuck? And she, like, doesn't budge. And so he's like, all right, fine. And so they make this deal. And as they're leaving, Royce is like, I'm really happy that it's you. And she's like, what? And then they, like, leave. And so they're like, all right. And he, like, gets her number before they leave. And he's like, well, we're going to have to, like, go on a date now. And she's just, like, in a whirlwind. But she puts it aside because she learns more about her family's finances and about, like, how dire they're in. So she starts taking over all the finances and stuff. While this is also happening, she needs to be, quote unquote, cleaned up. So every time McAllister looked at her with this green hair, he was like, ugh, what a peasant. And so she has to be, like, society cleaned up. So she gets her hair done. She gets a whole new wardrobe.
Montage.
A cue montage. And part of this process is she will have to be interviewed by the board of HBHC. It's like secret society. So she gets the society makeover with Alice, who is Royce's stepmom and also the VP of marketing at HBHC. And now she is a character in this as well.
Got it.
So she finally goes out with Royce, who says he tries to clear the air, and he's like, hey, all those years ago, I called you a nobody because I always wanted you. I always had a crush on you, and I knew that if I kind of labeled you as such, like, no one would date you, and I don't feel bad about it because, like, we're together now. And if he ever but he was like, I had to be careful because if I ever show an interest in anything, my father usually takes it away because it's like a thing of he has the power and he likes to, like, do that. So I've always tried to stay away from you, and I'm sorry for staying away from you for this year. And they have this really nice dinner, and she's like, okay, I'm actually, like, okay with talking. Like, his dad's really fucked up, and, like, this family's fucked up, but, like, this is kind of how it is in this world, and so I'm kind of accepting this. And he's like, why don't we go back to, like, and they all, like, Royce still lives with his dad and his brother and Alice in this, like, mansion. He goes, I feel like we can't talk freely here. I'm sure like my dad has someone here to like photograph us for like the society papers or whatever. So like, can you come back to mine and we could just talk in my room? Like we don't have to do anything. Let's just talk. She's like, okay. She goes home with him to talk in private, and he says that when they're in private, he wants to be himself with her, but in public, he has this persona that he has to put on, and he might have to lie sometimes, and he just wants her to play the game with him too, and to be like herself around him when it's them, and to never like believe anything in public, basically, because that's the world of business. And she's like, okay. And he's like, I just want to help you. I want to make this transition as easy as possible. She's like, oh, there is one thing. I've been waiting a year. So can you touch me? And he's like, what? And they start making out, and he fingers her again. And then she gives him a hand job, and she comes, and I call this one number 2. At least she came, because before she finishes the hand job, his dad just bursts into the room. Oof. And so they're like, it's this moment of like, what? And they're all like caught there. And then this is a fucked up story, just so we all know. I just want to keep putting that out there.
Okay.
And so he's like, I think that's enough for tonight. I think you should go home, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, okay. And Royce is like, I'm sorry. And so they're like, all right. The next day, she meets with Alice, and they go over her image, and they start going over the board and all the board members and like the histories and all the stuff that she needs to know for this interview that she's going to do.
Okay.
She tells Royce about her like study sessions, and they make a deal that he'll help her study because he knows all these people and all this stuff. If she teaches him how to drive, because he's always had a driver and he's never had to learn.
Oh my God. Oh my God. So I'm okay. If we could have a moment.
Yeah.
I have been picturing Chuck Bass this whole time, and what you just said confirms that image for me.
I totally get that.
He does not look the way that you described Royce to look, but the attitude in general is what I've been picturing.
I think attitude, yes. I didn't watch a lot of Gossip Girl, but what I did know, I always was like, Chuck Bass is gross.
Yes.
He was like the grossest to me. I did not like him at all.
Yes.
But
I'm McAllister. Sorry, we're still there for me.
I haven't heard anything you've said.
That and Prince Royce is like playing every single time you say.
And McAllister as in Home Alone?
Yes, that's what I have had nothing going on. I want you to know it's just like Pong up there.
So Kevin McAllister Hale. Bing pong. So they go, and he's quizzing her as she's teaching him how to drive, and she has like a stick shift, like Maserati Jaguar thing. I don't even know. And it's going well.
Crazy.
It's going well. They're doing it in a parking lot, and then they take it out on the road, and he's doing fine, but then he gets distracted because she looks so beautiful. And he slightly loses control, and she's like, just veer into the ditch, and then he does. And
wait, so he fully crashes the car because she's so pretty?
I mean, I guess like it was a thing of like they were trying to hold hands while he was driving, but like
this is stick shift?
His first lesson. Like,
Prince
what are you
Royce,
doing?
What are you doing?
Prince Royce. And he doesn't like crash, but he like pulls over onto the side of the road.
Right.
And they both are like so worked up. The adrenaline is crazy. He gets out of his car. He runs around to the side and pulls her out and is like, are you okay? And she's like, yeah, I'm fucking fine. We just like pulled off to the side of the road. And she's so worked up, and she's like, they start kissing, and then she's like, can we just fuck? Can we just have sex? And he's like, what? And she's like, I've been waiting. And he's like, no, the first time is not going to be in the back seat of your car. And also, you're a virgin, and like, it's going to hurt. And she's like, no, I'll be fine. Just fuck me in the back of this car. And so he's like, okay. And so they get into the back of the car, and they're making out. And this might be a trigger warning.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just about to say, it feels like it needs to be a trigger warning because virginity is just the worst.
It's trigger warning for virginity.
It's a trigger warning for loss of virginity.
Just
because
the worst trope.
As they're like getting to it, he's fingering her, and then he fingers her so hard that he breaks her hymen.
Right.
And she's like, ow. And he's like, I fucking told you. And he's like, but he goes, well, now the first time we actually have sex, because again, I'm not deflowering you in the back of this car, it's not going to hurt. And I want it to be special for you, and I want it to be okay.
How kind of
and but she's all pissed because she's like worked up. But he's
We
like,
both have suspicious dog eyes right
Yeah.
now.
oh, I'm also like suspicious of it as I was reading this. I was like, I don't know if I like this, but also he's considerate.
There are 3 very squinty women at this table right now.
Give us some glasses. We can't see. Are those flags red or green?
Red.
Red. So some time passes. She keeps learning about the board, and the interview finally happens.
And presumably
so
she keeps getting fingered.
I don't know.
Probably?
Inconclusive.
Okay.
Inconclusive fingering.
Dad pops in from the trunk of the car. You better stop that.
Well, I think they have a couple more dates, and they've probably like kissed a bit, but they haven't really done much.
Got it.
Okay.
Got it.
And it's all a lot of intrigue because at the same time, he is currently working at this high-powered bank, at this investment firm, whatever thing. And so he's also doing a lot, and he's busy, and she's finishing up college. So
Right.
there's a lot of like missed connection and texts and things happening that I'm glossing over.
Oh, okay.
Got it.
But they are building their relationship in some ways and trust.
Okay.
So
Okay.
that's the hard part about these synopses sometimes, that I'm like, it's hard to like tell you that it's okay when
Yeah,
you don't
yeah.
see it.
Yeah,
but
because we're
it's-
not getting all the context
exactly.
necessarily.
But that's not what this podcast is about.
That's fair.
So the interview finally happens, and it's her in front of 8 people, because I think the board is 9 people. And they ask her normal questions about like what she hasn't really been super prepared, but Alice has been like, hey, just you got this, like you're gonna be okay. Have a sense of professionalism no matter what they say, and if they give you anything, always read it. Never sign it until you read the entire document, and I just want to make sure you know that. And she's like, okay, got it. So that conversation happens.
So they talk to my mom.
They
Got
yes.
it.
So Andrew's mom's like, babe. The interview happens, and they ask her normal questions about like her career goals, this and that. Does she want kids? And then they start going, well, have you and Royce, how far have you guys gotten? She's like, what? He's like, how far have you gotten? Like, how intimate are you? And she's like, okay. And she like she remembers Alice's whatever, and she tries to like keep this professional.
Right.
She answers the questions of, yes, she is a virgin, and she has been intimate with people, and they're like, what names? And she says the name of one boy that she was intimate with, and then she says she has been slightly intimate with Royce, and they're kind of like looking at each other. They're like, no way, you're a virgin. Yes. And she's like, yeah. And they're like, wow, this is crazy. Anyways, and then they get the interview back on track, and it ends, and she's like, that was really fucking weird. And she walks out of the boardroom. She goes straight to Royce's office and yells at him, being like, did you fucking know they were going to ask me shit like that? And he's like, I had an idea, but I wasn't allowed to tell you. And she's like, what do you mean you weren't allowed to say anything? He's like, it's the rules. It's the rules of being on the board and possibly being on the board. And I've been sworn to secrecy and all this stuff. And so he's like, I promise anything I could tell you, I will. But I did not know it would be that. And she's like, she kind of calms down, but she's still pissy. Mm-hmm. And she gets pulled aside by Alice and was like, are you okay? I know those questions can be, because remember, she's married to Kevin McAllister Hale, who is on the board. So
Right.
she's been through this interview process.
Yeah.
And she's like, you're going to be okay. It's going to be fine. Uh-huh. So she learns that she does well at this interview, and is now given the task of helping to plan the party for Royce to become on the board, because that's like what a good society wife does.
Right.
And even though she will be more than that, she will still be in charge of a lot of his social obligations and stuff, and helping with them. And
What
so,
an honor.
What a fucking honor. I like these flowers. I mean, no shame to people who like to do that. That's also a hard job. But
there's nothing wrong with that as long as that's the understanding. But I think for 3 people like us we're both blinking after certain statements that are being made, and all you can hear is like ding 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 ding, like where we're like,
I will say
processing.
Yeah. It's not a like, this is what you do now. It's like, oh, well, you show your loyalty to your future husband by planning his party. So they encourage her to have a career, and much like Alice, who's the VP of marketing, like they're fine with career-oriented women, which is also nice, but it's this weird,
It's the expectation.
the expectation, and it's weird. So it's a lot
marrying
of,
into an Italian family. What do you mean you don't cook? Like
so there's a lot of back and forth, which I found really interesting when reading this, because I was like, so they're kind of progressive, but they're also really not.
Yeah.
And And it makes this, there's a duality of feelings there.
Gotcha. The bank runs everything.
Bank runs it all. So she's still living at home, and back home she learns that her mom has now been hiding bills from her, hoping the issues go away. She finds all the mail that's been hidden and sees that they're in further financial straits, if you will. Oof. And she goes, "What the fuck is this? Is this a receipt for a $4,000 handbag from Chanel?" And her mom's like, "I was feeling low,
Mom.
and I wanted to feel better." And she's like, "Then go take a jog. Like, what the? You're returning this?" And her mom gets so pissy, but she keeps being like, "You don't have to do this. You don't have to marry into the Hales." And she's like, "Clearly, I do. When you don't understand, like this, we're gonna lose everything." So there's a lot of at-home shit going on as well.
Wait. Is Emily still just pregnant?
Yeah, Emily's pregnant.
Sure as shit.
Just hanging out.
Yeah,
there she is.
Ever since then, Maris has been pissed because Emily and her were like best friends, and she was like, "How could she not tell me this?"
Yeah.
So there has been a little bit of a wedge in between them.
Okay, I just needed to check in.
That's how she gets even closer to Royce.
That's
Yes!
Prince Royce. Prince Royce. And as she's all pissed going through the new bills, Emily confronts her and is like, "We need to talk." And she's like, I think I was doing this, and I know I didn't want to marry Royce, but I also really did not want to marry into the Hales because of something I heard. She goes, "What did you hear?" She goes, "Well, my friend used to babysit for, the Smiths who are on the board, and she heard this disturbing thing, and I think this is what has to happen." She goes, "What is it?" She goes, "Well, in order for Royce..."
Don't take a big breath and giggle like that. We're like,
I just forgot.
I'm like, this is where we're gonna find out how messed up this stuff is.
And
Emily's like, hold on,
No, not triggering, but like, again, this is it's a fucked up book.
Okay.
How fucked up, Emily?
In order for Rice to get on the board, he has to fuck you in front of them.
No, I was so scared. That's where it was going.
Like banks do.
like a secret society.
Like a bank.
And again, let me say, this is the lightest secret society book I read. This is the lightest one. And she's like, "No, this is a joke." But Emily's like, "Nope, it's real. I heard it from my friend who babysat." And the member got in a fight with like his wife one night, his wife was like, "And I let you fuck me in front of them, and like this is how like the night goes." And he's like, shut up, don't, the babysitter's here, be quiet. And so it's all kind of like speculation. It's all allegedly.
How very Louis the 14th.
Mm-hmm. So basically, she thinks about it. And they go on another date. She's in a really pissy mood. She doesn't bring it up to Royce, but she's like, I still don't know if this is real. Like this seems too crazy.
I promise to tell you anything else important
that he can.
Boo.
Secret societies, rules.
What are they going to do? Take his thumbs?
They'll take his position from the board.
They'll chop his dick off, probably.
And they'll chop his dick off,
wow.
probably. Allegedly. So basically she thinks about it, and then the party and the initiation night comes. And Royce, and before they're like kind of getting dressed, and Royce comes into her room and is like, "I need to tell you something, and I expect you to leave and never see me again." And I'm prepared for that, and I've just really enjoyed our time together because I've always like had a crush on you, and I understand that this means losing you, and I just want to put that out there. And she's like, "Bish, I know already that you're gonna have sex with me." He's like, "What?" And then he's like, "Okay, I wanted to tell you so bad, and I promise that this is not our first time. Like this doesn't count for us, and I'm gonna make it as quick as possible, and then when we're married, that will be our first time together."
No.
You poopy. Like, I don't like any of this.
And she's like, "Got it, cool. I know, I'm going in with open eyes." And he's like, "Oh my God."
The telling her is not what I'm mad about. I think he should have done that. It's I'll make it quick, because I'm like, if you're going to do this to me, at least make me come.
Why don't you ask me what I would prefer?
Right.
Maybe this is my kink.
Right.
Oh, I'm not done yet.
Oh.
There it is, kids.
There's more.
God. Okay.
But before she goes in, Alice pulls her aside and is like, "You don't have to do this. Like, this is all about consent. And this is... I'll get there. And remember what I told you, always read something before you sign it, and I'm going to be here afterwards in case you need to talk to someone and whatever." Okay. She's like, "Okay, got it."
Is she also a therapist?
No, she's just the VP of marketing. But also the stepmom and also someone who's like done this before.
There's
Right.
a woman playing God right now. I get it.
So she goes in, the board is sitting there, and they're like, we have this document for you to sign, and in it, it's all about like, I choose to be here, and it lays out like what's going to happen basically. And it's like, they tell this story about, well, I'm going to say this part backwards. I'll tell you the history and then I'll tell you what happens. So
Okay.
McAttack, aka McAllister, goes into the history of the board and how this company that's over 100 years old during the early 1900s flourished because the wife of his great-great-grandfather ran it while the great-great-grandfather had a stroke, so couldn't do anything. And while he was still the face, the woman was running everything, and the board repaid her in husbandly ways because her husband had a stroke, so she couldn't have sex.
God.
So the whole board was like, well, in order, because you've done so good, we'll all have sex with you because like that's really great. And that's the tradition and has stayed. And
That's the tradition.
and it's about loyalty to the Hale family and to the board, etc., etc. So that's why the rule is nobody over 60. That's why the rule is you have to have a wife because everyone gets a share, if you will. And again, it proves loyalty and all this stuff. So, okay. She reads the document and
Dad is on the board.
so she
Oh
sees
no! I don't like the way you ignored that.
she sees in the document there's the again, it's all about consent. It's like you are willing to do this because it's loyalty in this, and also she has a personal thing in it with her family and the money and the reverse dowry of $5 million.
Are you also having a small anxiety attack?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Let me put it out, everything is okay.
Uh-huh.
I'll just put that out there.
Okay.
Okay.
She sees the line that says, quote, the board will be able to evaluate her. And she goes, what the fuck is this? And Mac is like, well, that means anyone on the board for a minute can use their mouth or hands on you. And she's like, okay, if I'll sign it if Royce is your proxy because you're going to be my father-in-law, and that's fucking gross. And he's like, fine, Royce can step in for me. So basically, there's a huge hourglass. I'm telling you, this is an insane book. There's a huge hourglass, and it's a minute in the sand, if you will.
Okay.
And every time it turns over, a new board member's going to come in and quote unquote evaluate her.
How many of them are there again?
8.
Okay.
And then Royce will be the 9th, and when it's his turn, he will fuck her.
Okay.
So she's like, you don't get to do anything. Royce is your proxy, so he gets basically 2 turns. And also, he's like, okay, only if you move into the house next week and expedite your wedding to my son because, like, for public image or whatever. And she's like, okay, it's also stating that she can say no at any time, even during this whole ritual process.
Okay.
If she doesn't like it, everything can stop and she can leave and all this stuff. That's when she signs it. Then he goes into the history of this. So it's kind of backwards.
Okay.
And then I'm going to gloss over this, but it's called number 3. Wow, this is a lot. In which, remember, she's never had a lot of this done to her, but it's a lot of just like eating her out.
Okay.
And at one point she's like, and they go, stop the clock. Are you okay? Do you like this? What's going on? And they're like, she's like, it's a little rough. And he's like, oh, okay, got it. And they change it up. And then she ends up like coming twice.
Okay.
Yeah. And she's like, okay, this isn't that bad. I'm just going to keep looking at Royce. And Royce is looking at me. And he's so hot and everything's fine.
Okay.
And then she has sex and they make it fast. But she ends up coming and he comes too. And she's like, all right. And they help her. Oh, she's naked this whole time.
Right. Yeah.
And they
I
help her
figured.
back into the dress. And he's like, all right, let's go into the next room and just debrief. And
What do you say?
This is just when you look at each other like this.
Yeah.
Horrified.
it's like when you're having a shot and you look at your mom.
Yeah.
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 Not like a shot to drink, a shot like in your arm.
Yeah.
Like a flu
Got
shot.
that. Got that. Yep.
Like, I can't believe you're let them do this to me. Wait,
Right.
oh my God.
What?
Just thought back. I was like, oh my God. The
Yeah.
betrayal.
So it's this weird thing of like, they're all attentive and it's nice, but it's also just like super awkward and
Yeah.
weird. And they both are like, this is awkward and weird, but we're doing it together and it's okay. And so
All right.
afterwards they comfort each other and they're like, it's over. We don't ever have to do that again. There's never like a repeat or anything. And it's, like, there's,
Yeah, it's
you
a
don't have to
one-time trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah,
just
it's
the
not
once.
repeating trauma, which is great.
Yeah.
And we don't have to do that again. And now it's time for the party. And afterwards, Alice also pulls her aside and is like, are you okay? How do you feel? Do you want to leave? Like, da-da-da. And it's this like weird. This is also, to go back to the beginning of this episode, it's a moment that stuck with me because she goes, I didn't have someone waiting for me in the next room like I am for you. And so I hope for the next board member, you are waiting for them to like talk to them and tell them about this and like help them. And it's this like weird, lovely moment of like, like female understanding and comfort.
Congratulations, Emily. This is now mine as well. We are in this together where I will never stop thinking about this.
So, and yeah, it was like a weird moment in this. And I'm like, interesting.
It's sweet is what it is,
sweet
but it's also
in this
like
fucked up
very
thing.
fucked up. Yeah.
And so they go to the party. And it's like this big old party, and they're just like compartmentalizing. Mm-hmm. And he goes, I know you hate parties. I hate parties too. Let's just go to like the hedge mates outside in like 20 minutes so we can just like chill. Mm-hmm. And she's like, got it, cool. They do that. They make it out to the hedge maids. I just had a stroke. And
it's okay. It's a lot.
After talking for a while, he goes, I want to do something. And he gets down on one knee and he proposes and he goes, listen, we don't have to get married anytime soon, but like, I am so serious about you. I've always been in love with you, da 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 da. And she says yes. Aww. And the night is a bit of a roller coaster because this weird stuff happened in the beginning, and then she got married, proposed to, and she's like, actually, this is like really nice. Like now we're together and like we went through this and we're out on the other side.
Marriage fixes everything.
And they go back in and everyone's like, they're engaged. And it's great. And Kevin McAllister Hale is like, let's dance. And so he starts dancing with Marist.
Oh, no.
He's a villain.
Oh, hardcore villain. And he goes, I underestimated you. And I've done that twice now in both of these negotiations. First one being when they decide to get married. The second one being just in there with the proxy. And he goes, just so you know, I always get what I want. And she goes, what the fuck does that mean?
Did any of us have a good idea? Because the light bulb just went.
What does that mean? Ladies, we'll cut that out. And she's like, okay, that was weird. And she kind of tells Royce, and Royce is like, it's okay. Like, we're just going to skirt him. And I know you're moving into my house, but like, we don't have to see him a lot. It's going to be fine. Oh, my God. The next week she moves in with Royce, and Royce gives her the tour, and she's like, okay, this isn't that bad. And
she's starting to realize that that's not how houses work, and she will most likely see her father-in-law every single day.
Well, it's like a mansion. It's like a mansion.
I know what I said.
And they go down into the wine cellar, and they start having like some sexy times. And she's like, let's make this one count. And I call that one number 4. Isn't it a little musty down here? Yeah. Because like, man, I think I would be sneezing. They have sex on the wine caskets. Although there is one point where she lays down and it's like she's laying down on the board table. And she goes, nope. Yeah. And he goes, got it. Like, and it's a very like comfort, like it's like a BDSM coming down comfort thing. And I was like, yes, thank you. Mm-hmm. I was like, I do appreciate that. So they have sex. It's great. And then I'm going to give you the option. I can stop now or I can tell you the cliffhanger.
I got to know the cliffhanger.
Go for it. I know what's happening here. I see what's happening
Andrea knows what it is.
Yeah.
So later in the day, I believe, Kevin McAllister Hale is like, hey, let's have a little talk. Let's have the three of us a little sit down and talk. And so they all go in. Mac Attack goes, I'm a little bummed that I didn't get my turn. And so I'm going to make a deal with you. I'll give you almost all of my shares in the company, which is like, millions and millions of dollars, to his son. He's saying this to Royce. If you let me start to date Marist. And she goes, what? No, that's no. And Royce is like, absolutely not. And he goes, what about this many shares? What about this many shares? And he goes, no. And Marissa goes, hey, can we talk? Like, this is really making me uncomfortable. And finally, there is an offer made and a pause happens. And Royce says, deal, and shakes his father's hand. And that's where the book ends for book 2.
Oh my God.
Prince Royce.
And you said there are 5 books?
I believe it's either 3 or 5. I think it's 5.
So are they're working into a familial reverse harem situation?
I don't think so. I think because she gets a say in it. But I also am like, is he going to woo her? And is this a daddy-son thing?
I think it's
It might be a daddy-son thing.
I think it's a daddy-son thing.
So it was
a
roller coaster.
Wow.
Yeah.
No.
Isn't that crazy?
That's pretty fucked up.
Y'all, isn't that a crazy book?
That's a crazy book.
Wow, you've done something knucking futts.
Yeah.
Remember when I said this is the lightest?
Yeah, I'm
The
not surprised
lightest.
by that. I'm not surprised by that at all. I've read darker, but
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
but yeah. Wow. Okay.
I think we've all read darker, but we've all read something darker, but we've never wanted to. Like, it was always an accident.
Oh my god,
We've
that's
discovered
the most true thing you've ever said. I have never picked up something going like, yes. Which is why I think, like, in fan fiction, when I'm like, oh, this is wartime, this is gonna be dark. I know it's gonna be dark.
Yep.
I will get away from this. Like,
Yeah.
I've never picked maybe Haunting Adelaide, because I heard it was dark.
Okay.
Anything else though was never an intentional, like, can't wait for this fucked up
I mean,
shit.
I suspected this when Mac Attack was clearly listening at the library door when they were like, I think, like, I was like, oh, he was eavesdropping and like watching them do it, and then he interrupted them. Like,
Oh, when they had their first date?
When they had their first
Yeah,
date,
yeah.
and like he burst in. I was like, oh, something's creepy there, but I didn't think they would go fully for it by the end.
What's that Penelope Douglas book where
Credence.
that's the
Credence.
I've tried to read. I can't read Penelope Douglas. She's just not my thing. It's just not my style.
I turned
I read
off
about
my brain
80% of it, and
real hard on that
me
one.
too.
Yeah.
Did you have to do that for this book? Did you have to be like, click?
Honestly, no. I just kept going, wow, this is getting crazier. Like, it's just fun. It's so ridiculous. It's fun to me.
Yeah.
Whereas, again, I tried reading, I think it was like the Obsidian Night series. I tried reading The Ritual and The Sacrifice by Chantal Tessier. There's a few others. And if you look at the covers, they're all black with usually like a skull on it. Like, there is a definite, like, that's a dark romance vibe.
Yeah.
Yeah, those ones I do have to turn off my brain for, because I'm like, this is so not okay, but she's okay with it, so I guess it's okay, but we're not gonna we're gonna turn the logic off. And this one I'm like, this is crazy. This is nuckin' futz. So that's how I went into this book, and I hope that's how you re-listen to this.
I
because
don't
it's just
know
so
if
crazy.
I don't know if I can.
It's just so crazy. So I didn't even, much like my research, there was no game. So I'm gonna do a would you rather.
Great.
We're gonna keep it light. Would you rather be fucked against a library bookshelf, or would you rather be fucked in a wine cellar that probably isn't as musty as you'd think, but it's underground?
Wine cellar.
Why?
Because I don't want to hurt the books, and I'd be worried about them falling off the shelf. Although, if I can say, do you listen to Quinn audio erotica ever?
I know it, but I have never listened to it.
Okay. It's great. I recommend if you like that kind of thing. Quinn has some good stuff. There is a particular artist on there his production is very good.
Okay.
And he did one where he's fucking you in a library, including, and like the whole thing is like you have to be quiet, including the sounds of books being knocked off the shelf. And then he'll go, oh, well, you shouldn't have done that. That would like, and I think I listened to it like 3 or 4 times because I was just like, honestly, I'm having so much fun, and the production quality is incredible.
And I mean, again, it's our competency game.
Yes.
So that was the initiation.
Yeah.
Wait, would you fuck in a library or
Oh,
in a
no,
wine
I
cellar?
just nodded my head. Yeah. Definitely
cellar?
in a wine cellar.
Yeah?
Books.
I just love books.
Think
I love
about how
books.
much you spend in a year on books. And I personally, I don't buy a book until I know that I want it on my shelf, like the little like book gremlin that I am.
Yeah, I feel like my bookshelves are quite deep though, and I don't think the books will fall. I just think my allergies will get the best of me in the wine cellar. I think no matter how clean it is, it's
fair.
just gonna.
The dust. So here was my journey. As we kind of touched on already, I encountered a lot of very smutty one-shots that was like, we're at a masquerade ball, and then they fuck somewhere.
Love that. Love that for me.
Oh yeah, no, I had a good time reading through a lot of these, but most of them, by the time I got a chapter in, I was like, I don't have anything to talk about with this.
Yeah.
Or it's really dark. And then we got dinner on Friday, me, Emily, and some friends. We were talking about how hard this journey has been. And I think Keenan said, doesn't John Wick have secret societies?
Yes, now I remember this conversation.
And I was like, you know what? You're right. That whole thing is based around a secret society.
It is a secret society
of assassins and mobsters and the criminal underground. And I looked it up, and there are 2000 John Wick fanfics, and I found one that I really like.
Nice.
So we're doing a John Wick fanfic today.
I love John Wick.
You love? Do you know John Wick?
I don't know John Wick as well as I should. I know there's a dog. I know him enough to know the zeitgeist.
Got it. Yeah, I would say. I mean, I've watched all the John Wick
There's
movies.
4?
There are 4 of them.
I think I've watched only 3, maybe.
Yeah. I will say it is kind of a perfect action movie series and also this is what I think makes it so perfect for fan fiction, because there is a lot of reliance on archetypes. There's a lot of like, you know what an action movie is. We don't need to burden ourselves with this. Let's just watch this man kill 3 people with a pencil.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It is the perfect, like, because I remember watching that when I was in finals for something. And I text my brother and I go, I need something to watch. And he recommended that, and within minutes I text him. I go, "You tell me right now if this dog dies."
That's
and then
right.
he goes, "You have to keep watching." And I was like, "This was the perfect, like, I don't have to think about anything else. It's senseless. It's amazing. It's well done. Keanu Reeves is a zaddy.
Yeah.
So it's all those things.
It's
in one.
really, really fun, and
Yes.
it does not take itself too seriously at all, which is so nice.
Yeah.
But it is also kind of a classic action movie in that we're not digging in too deep into anything. But the fan fiction writers have decided to do that for us, which
dig
I always
right in.
love.
Yay.
So there are 2000 John Wick fanfics, which I would call relatively small for a fandom. Usually I call a big fandom like 10K and above. 518 of these fanfics are explicit, and 176 of those, so the biggest, most popular pairing, is John Wick and the Reader. Almost 200 of these are just you fantasizing about being with John Wick, and I love that.
I love that
Yeah.
so much.
And then another 75. So the second most popular pairing is the pairing that we're going to be covering today. So that's John Wick and Santino D'Antonio. Do you remember, Emily, who this character is? If you don't, then I have a whole thing written.
No, I'm more of a faces gal, not a names gal.
That's fair. And in this particular series, why would you remember anyone?
A man who might be killed.
A man who might be killed.
90% of the people in these movies are killed at
Yes.
some point.
To give a general overview of the secret society in this world, because that is what we are relying on for this story, they are called the High Table, and they are an international organization composed of 12 of the world's most powerful crime families. Each family has a seat at the High Table, and that is the like crime boss. You can say like the Yakuza probably has someone at the High Table.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Think back to our mob, our
like
mafia
the Russian mob
episode.
has
Yeah.
somebody. The Italians have like 4 seats because of their various organizations. So it's
Sicilian, the
Sicilian.
mainland. Yeah.
and so
Vatican City.
they are like Vatican City.
Probably.
They're like the ultimate authority of the underworld. They have police forces, politicians, global organizations in their pockets that they have bribed and manipulated, etc.
Is this what's his name? Santino what?
Santino D'Antonio.
I want to say Santino Fontana, which is the guy who played Greg in Crazy
Yes,
Ex-Girlfriend.
yes.
But is this the guy who hires him in the second movie?
Yes.
Okay, I know exactly who this is.
Yes.
Yep.
The Continental Hotel is the hotel that John Wick stays in various movies. It is like the Assassin's Hotel, the Underworld Hotel.
I know this one.
It's got an armory. It's got a medic. It is the place, and it's like neutral ground, and is kind of an arm of the High Table because the same types of people roll through both establishments. Those are things that you just kind of need to know going in. John Wick previously worked for the Tarasov mob, which is a Russian mob. He met his wife Helen and wanted to spend time with her, so he wanted to retire. So his backstory is that his superior Vigo, he promised to allow John to quit if he completed an impossible task, which was killing all of Tarasov's enemies in one night. And in order to do that, John Wick made a deal with Santino and his mob.
Santino Fontana.
And like because he has like an Italian group that's based in like New York and Naples, and basically made a deal with him and was like, I owe you a life debt if you clear the way for me a little bit so that I can pull this off. And he did, and he retired for 5 years, and then Helen got sick and died, and when she was dying, she got him a puppy to help him mourn, and then that puppy was killed, and that kicks off.
Spoilers for John Wick.
Yeah. The whole first movie is him just going through and eliminating this entire Russian.
Avenging the dog,
Which
you
is,
mean?
that's why it's amazing.
Yeah.
Santino, it's him and his sister Gianna, and they are the heads of the Camorra, which is this Italian, the name for this Italian mafia group. In the movies, she is the high table member after their father dies. In this, that is not the case. So in this, Santino and all of that has not happened yet. All we've done is the first movie. So John Wick has retired. He's come out of retirement. He's slaughtered a bunch of Russian mobsters, but he has this oath with Santino, this agreement, this life debt that he had made with him 5 years before in order to go into retirement. He's a little unstable. He's the younger brother. She's the sophisticated older sister that is probably smarter than him.
I take offense to that being the younger sibling is unstable. So
But you know it's true though in your heart of hearts.
I take offense to that, and that's all I'll say.
There's a reason you and my little sister are best friends.
And that's a reason that we could really ruin someone's lives
Right.
because we have a morally gray code, baby.
Hey.
Sammy, give me a text.
Okay, so this story is called Unholy Union by NeverWinterThistle, and it was completed. I just really liked the way I just said NeverWinterThistle.
What a good name.
It's a great name. So this is 13 chapters. It was completed in November of 2019, November 22nd of 2019.
Gotcha.
So let's get into it. Chapter 1, like I said, John Wick has just declared his retirement. He has just finished killing a bunch of Russians and is like, all right, I'm done. I've avenged my dog and also my wife. And he's getting his car back. And while he's doing so, it's like at a dock. In the movie, people had stolen it. And then they call him and they're like, take your car. And they tell him where to find it. He's at the dock. He hears two people unloading crates with dogs in them on their van because there's like a vet clinic by the dock.
It's for they're not going to hurt the dogs.
They're not going to hurt the dogs.
It's for the vet. Yeah.
No. So he's waiting for his car to be dropped off. He overhears these people and they unload like a little pit bull. And they're like, it's honestly in this area of the city, it's probably kinder if we just euthanize him. Like, you know what happens with
It's
pit
like a lot of
bulls.
strays.
Like he's not chipped. Like that's just the way it goes. John hears that, gets his car, drives 5 miles away, drives back, punches in the door to the vet clinic, steals the dog, and then goes home again.
So he gets a new dog.
He gets a new dog.
Which is like canon to that's what happens in the movie. He gets a new dog.
He gets a new dog immediately. He's back home. He's feeling out of place. He's like cleaning up his house after not being there for a minute because he was busy killing people. And
so busy.
Yeah.
You know how you do.
You know how you do.
And the dog is doing what dogs do and just walking around and snuffling at things and whatever.
I've got a new home.
Yep. I gotta smell the smells.
I'm a baby.
And
I didn't
John,
like that. I'm sorry.
I'm a baby.
I'm a baby.
And John hears something break and immediately assumes like, oh, the dog knocked something off the table, but then clocks 5 intruders, all in black, all carrying katanas.
Katanas. Okay.
Perfect murder weapon.
Yeah. His internal monologue is, I'm retired, as he immediately shoots 2 in the head. And then they start to chase him through the house. We have a full fight scene, but this is all from his POV. I think the entire story is from his POV. And he's bored. He's just like, oh, God, this shit again. Dealing with it. He catches the last one in the kitchen and is like, what do you want? I just went through this. I'm retired again. And the guy goes, high table. They said you were back. You've made a lot of enemies, Mr. Wick, and they're coming for you. We all are. And then he dies.
Ugh.
So just as he dies, another wave breaks through the front window of dudes with katanas. And he starts fighting them again. And then just as he gets the last guy down, Santino walks in holding a grenade launcher.
Jesus.
The most survivable of these attacks thus far.
I think he'll be fine.
But most damaging.
Yeah. And John is like, he looks really beautiful. No, I can't think about that. And
what about Helen?
And
all of a sudden, I just got a little blush. I wasn't expecting that. Even though you kind of said it in the beginning.
I said it. We get right into it, but like in a fun way. And so Santino's like, we need to talk, but we need to get out of here because another wave is coming. I have a way for you to repay your debt. And John is like, I can't help you with whatever this is. I'm retired. And Santino says, I can fix this. And the dog dashes towards them, terrified because gunfire, and runs to Santino, who puts down the grenade launcher and is like, hi boy, and starts to pet him, crouches down. And so he does not get hit by the bullets that start flying through the room. So they narrowly miss him because he crouched down to pet the dog. Santino tackles the dog and gets the dog behind the kitchen island with John, and bullets start to tear through the walls of this kitchen. They all stay down, and then once they kind of run out of bullets, they make their way out, and Santino's like, my men are in the front. We just need to get to the front. So they get to his men. He's giving orders in Italian. And
hot.
Yep. And once he gives the first order in Italian, John like flashes back to 10 years ago when he was learning Italian because Santino spoke Italian in bed a lot, and he was like, I should learn what you're saying. And then he's like, we can't think about this right now, and like shakes his head and they get in the car. So we're laying breadcrumbs, if you will. So they arrive. Yes. So they arrive at the Antonio house, the estate, and Santino's sister Gianna is there, who John knows from his previous life. And basically he learns that the father of the family that John just slaughtered went to the high table and said, I am very insulted that my entire family was just slaughtered over a dog. I don't think that pays me my proper respect, and John Wick should be killed.
Rude.
Yes. The high table agreed because they were like, yeah, that is a really disrespectful thing to murder your entire family over a dog.
I guess.
Maybe a little.
They clearly are not dog people.
I was just about to say, I love the micro trope of a villain all of a sudden petting dog and then being like seen as soft for like a brief second, and I love that micro trope.
I do too. I have a soft spot for a villain with a soft heart.
Yeah,
for sure.
I like anyone who likes animals.
Yes.
Just period.
A little bit. Yeah.
I don't know why, but my immediate response was like, well, not everyone. Not everyone.
I like people in books who like animals.
Right.
There we go.
Does that help you?
Yeah, it does. It does. So basically, the high table agreed with Vigo and said, like, that is very insulting. So we will not retaliate. We will not retaliate if John Wick is killed. We're not saying that he should be, but we won't do anything if anybody happens to.
They're Switzerland.
And
I'm glad you said Switzerland because my brain just went Sweden.
That's
not
also
correct.
probably like Switzerland.
But they are an official organization, and so they have a like trial process. And so basically, for now, if something happens to John Wick, they're not going to be mad, but they're essentially hearing Vigo's case in regards to putting out an official hit on him.
Okay.
So it's like the court is caught up in all of this. So he learns all of this from Santino and Gianna, and he asks them if their father can help since he's a board member, if you will, of the high table.
Oh, interesting.
Interesting.
2 board member
fathers. And they both
Fathers.
get very quiet, and they learn that he learns that their father died like 2-3 days after his wife Helen died.
Oh shit.
And John feels Santino's knee kind of press up against his because they're like sitting next to each other, and he leans over and says to John, like, I'm so sorry for the loss of your wife. I wanted to go to the memorial, but I had my own to deal with. And they basically tell him that Vigo's case has delayed the reading of the will of their father, so they don't know which one of them, Gianna or Santino, are going to inherit the high table seat.
Down to rock, paper, scissors, I see.
Yes. Coin flip it is.
Yes. And so basically they say, like, your shit has delayed us figuring out who inherits, and our organization is in disarray because of it.
Thanks.
So thanks, motherfucker. And John is just remembering, all their time working together 5 years ago before he retired, and, feels a level of sadness for their father and for them. And then Santino says, but you're immune to the high table's justice if you join our family. And interesting. So John says, well, I'm a little bit old to be adopted. And Santino says, no, like, how would you feel about marrying me? And and that's
Crazy
John's face.
that your brain went first to adoption.
I know, isn't that weird? And Gianna's like, this is a good plan. I agree with it. Whichever one of us inherits, you will be a family member, so we will have grounds to protect you due to our history. And John has a very real response where he's like, well, I just buried my wife.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I want to marry anyone now.
Can you adopt me instead?
Can you adopt me instead?
That's why adoption came up first.
Yeah.
It's all out of respect to his
To Helen.
his beloved
and
late
the
wife.
dog.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And so he asked for the evening to think about it, and they say, of course. And there's a moment when he says, like, I just buried my wife. I need a moment, where the two siblings are clearly like a little bit put in their place.
Question. How long is it between when the wife dies and then he gets the dog and then the dog dies? It's like a month, right?
It's like a month. Yeah,
Or
it's
like
not
a
very
little-
long.
Yeah, it's like not. I was like, it wasn't days. It was like there was a time for him to bond with that dog.
There was time. It was like a month, and then the actual like killing spree. I think
like a weekend
It's like
or
a
something?
weekend.
Yeah,
it's
okay.
like 3 days.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay.
And there's 5 years, because that keeps coming up in this fic. He retires for 5 years.
Okay.
And so John leaves. He goes to the on-staff medic to get his bullet wounds treated from the injuries he sustained in his kitchen. He runs into Cassian, who's like an old coworker and also Gianna's bodyguard and kind of lover, it's implied, and realizes like, oh, I'm fully back in this world now. Like, I'm running into old colleagues. And then he goes to bed. He has like a guest room, and he keeps waking up because he feels like he keeps waking up thinking that he's feeling Santino getting into bed like he used to back in the day. AA. So he wakes up very early, like 4 a.m., and just can't sleep anymore. And he goes to Santino's room, sits down on the bed next to him, with like he's like sitting with his back to the headboard, and Santino's like fully asleep. And then he wakes up, doesn't even turn around, and just says like, I really apologize for not being more respectful of your loss. That wasn't okay. I'm gonna be more careful. John is like fully falling back into old patterns and starts to just work his fingers through Santino's hair. And Santino says, I always liked it when you did that. And John pauses and says, well, I guess I'll be doing it more often once we're married. And Santino says, yeah. And John says, yeah. And then they just sit back in silence. So I have brought to you a secret society mob arranged marriage, fake marriage fic. That's what we're doing.
Again, I only keep picturing Santino Fontana. So
Yeah. Find the guy from
I have
Show Andrea.
this guy.
Yeah, he's handsome.
Oh,
Yeah, he's got a good head of hair.
Yeah, yeah,
It was
yeah,
the
yeah.
hair that made me go, I gotta look at
He's
what
got a
this
good
guy
head of
is.
hair. Yeah. So the very next day, John calls Winston, who is the owner of the Continental, played by
Ian McShane.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Yeah,
Ian
yeah.
McShane. So he calls Winston and asks about a room and asks if they do weddings.
Amazing.
And Winston is he's very professional, but he's also like, are you sure, Mr. Wick? And he says, yes, I am sure. So obviously there's a chapel in the Continental because the Continental has everything. And they get there. John drops the dog off at the front desk. John and Winston talk, and Winston, gives him the skinny and says like, an investigator from the high table has already booked a room to be here starting tomorrow. Vigo, who is leader of that Russian mob, has also booked a room. And there is a strong chance that they see right through you guys. I hope you have a good plan. And Winston also says, like, it's really weird that you're doing this so close to when your wife passed away.
This is like a weird green
How
card
dare
marriage,
you
is
bring
what
that up?
I know.
How dare he bring that up?
Yeah, he like shames him.
Look, we are allowed to say so much to people who are grieving. Like, I'm sorry. That's a big one. I was like, yeah, I know you're sorry. We're all sorry. Like, but to say, oh, by the way, I see this and I don't think it's appropriate.
How dare you?
How dare you?
Hey, we all grieve in our own ways.
And John has to like walk away and gather himself. And Santino goes after him and says like, I understand we are both in mourning in our own way, but we need to survive. And in order for us to survive and for people to not keep trying to kill you, this needs to happen. So they make their way to the chapel. Gianna bursts through the door and is like, has it happened yet? Are you married? And Winston goes, this shouldn't be rushed, ma'am. And she's like, yes, it should. The high table just sent me word that there will be an investigation and that no one can do anything to hinder the investigation. And we need plausible deniability that we did not see this message before this marriage happened. And so Santino like does it again and is like, John, we need to do this now. Like, don't throw away everything you've already done. Like, is that really what Helen would have wanted? Like, this is our way out. Your wife would have wanted you to marry me.
You saw my reaction and you doubled down on it. Continue.
And John has a moment because this is the first time Santino has spoken his wife's name. Ooh. And he goes, I didn't realize that you knew her name. And Santino says, of course I do. She had what I could only ever dream of. Oh my God. And they don't talk about the important things about how this is probably a horrible idea. And so they get married very, very, very quickly for plausible deniability. Winston officiates. It's very like Princess Bride, like just say I do. Wife. Say man and wife. Man and wife. So Winston very sarcastically gives them the honeymoon suite and fills it with rose petals. That's funny. As a way to indicate, again, very, very, very passive aggressive.
That's what I thought it was. Like I saw like you guys kind of be like, "Ooh," and I was like, "How rude!"
Mm-hmm. I think that's funny.
And they basically know that this hotel has cameras everywhere. It is a spy and assassin hotel. So they need to, and that there is an investigator coming, and so they need to very convincingly be together, as you do for fake marriages.
Correct.
As you do with these types of shenanigans.
I love you, honey bunny. Yeah, all of a sudden
hold my hand.
Yeah.
Even in their room. So like John clocks cameras in their room.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize that.
Yes. And so they're standing like close to each other in the elevator up, and Santino's like, I wonder what the future holds, but I'm excited about the surprise. And John is like, I really hate surprises. And Santino says, well, I always seek to surprise you, and gives him like a small kiss on his cheek. So we're building, we're escalating, we're getting up there. Later that night, they have dinner in the hotel restaurant with Santino's sister Gianna, and John feels himself slipping into the old role he used to have when he worked for Santino, which is to say the calm, patient middleman in between two bickering Italian siblings. And she teases them and says, like, John, how do you stand it? My brother never shuts up. And you're always so quiet. And John's like, it works perfectly for us, and flashes back to a morning after, like, a assigned killing spree in Naples. He's cleaning his equipment, and that like when after working together for 5-6 years, Santino learned that John tends to crash the next morning, so he would just come in the room when John returned and just start talking. And John would just be silently cleaning his shit, and Santino would be talking about art and music and this motherfucker that ran into him the other day.
Santino is my Futurama. I see. So, like, at the end of the day, when you can't do anything else and you put on Futurama just to have the noise.
Yep. Or Royal Pains.
Yep. Oh, yeah?
This is what I've been watching.
Just fill the space with Royal Pains, you know?
I said that to our friend, to Sean, guest of the first season, and she went, I have never met anyone who has watched Royal Pains. I'm only on season 2, but we're going.
Only on season 2.
It's a nothing show, and it's great.
No, it's wonderful. It was on after Burn Notice.
Yes.
Oh, my God.
And I was like, I can't watch Burn Notice, but I'm watching Royal Pains right now.
And so John talks about this to Gianna and says, like, yeah, Santino noticed that I needed this and just started doing it every single time I came home. And he says, like, I really appreciated that. Thanks for always being there. And it was nice. He said it was nice to have someone near me who could be so alive after everything that I had done. And Gianna says, didn't it bore you to tears hearing my brother just babble on about business and people you didn't know? And John's like, no, I was fascinated and I like his voice. And she smiles.
Aww.
And is like gives them a little bit of like, great, I can work with that. That is all I really need to know. I can spin that off into whatever I need to say. And she leaves to go get a drink. So they've just had this kind of long, intimate dinner where they're sitting next to each other. John has given compliments. Santino has given compliments. We like each other's voices. It's great. And Gianna leaves. Santino turns slightly towards John, and John kisses him. and can tell that Santino is actively holding himself back and trying to let John take his time, clearly remembering that, you know, this man just lost his wife, trying to be kind. And he's like, I want you. And Santino says, I want you so much. And I've waited many, many years. And they go upstairs. And they know that there are still cameras in their suite. They know that they just got married. There is an expectation of like a honeymoon night. There's an expectation of consummation of the marriage. I don't know if these are bad or good squinty eyes.
I don't like it.
Okay.
I don't like it.
It's okay. She'll say the scene and I'll give it a name after. That'll make it better for
There you go. So they have to uphold the story. So it's a little bit like they both want to do it, but they also, there's a level of pressure, which is why it's really bad at first. They're not syncing at all. They're like trying to kiss each other, but teeth keep happening. And at one point when Santino tries to like help move positions, his knee goes directly into the ribs that John broke earlier
yikes.
during the kitchen fight. And John, like, his vision whites out and he screams and, like, curls up. And Santino is, like, speaking in Italian and apologizing and cooing over him and going, I'm so sorry. I should have been more careful. Like, kissing the top of his head. And then, like, they're, like, on the bed. And he leans down, like, obscuring his mouth and whispers in John's ear, like, take all the time you need, but this does have to happen tonight for the story. And John starts to laugh hysterically. And is like, there's the real you fucking bastard. And feels like he's finally gotten his friend back a little bit weirdly. And after he calls Santino a bastard, Santino starts to laugh. And this is the shift that they needed. This is the change. And from there it's very different. And he just lets Santino take the lead because he's like, my fucking ribs are broken. You do the work.
Power bottom.
That's
Power
what
bottom.
I'm going to have to use.
Pillow princess.
Do it.
This is number one, pillow princess John Wick.
Number one, Philip
Dunzo.
John Wick.
Actually, you know what? That did help.
You're welcome.
Because I was like, this is sad.
Naming them is fun.
Sad.
Naming them is fun.
And then, like, it definitely got better once they lost the awkwardness to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. Which is, if we talk about mini tropes, I'm a sucker for that.
Really?
I'm a sucker for a sex scene that starts and you're like, oh, this isn't going to be good. And then something happens to make it real. And then it's good.
Yeah,
I love that.
I like that too.
I love that. And they do something, they like fall back into old patterns and Santino gets on top and they fuck and it's lovely. And and John is thinking about how like usually when they would do this before in the before times, it was like very rough and very power play-y, but they can't do that right now because his fucking ribs are broken. So it's kind of nice, ? And they come at the same time and they're both kind of laughing and shaking and can't quite believe that they just did this. They both fall asleep. The phone rings far too early, and they're being summoned downstairs to meet the high table investigator. Santino says, I do give you my sincerest regrets. However, we are newlyweds, and so we will not be seeing you until at least noon. Thank you. And hangs up. And they have sex again. And then John falls back to sleep and wakes up to the smell of coffee in bed, and they have espresso and lean on each other and do not talk. And they got a note with the coffee from Gianna basically saying like the high table knows about the wedding. They dropped the original case because he's now under family protection. However, Vigo is bringing an additional case for fraud because he says that the marriage is bullshit.
Rude.
So because John is now family, they cannot have a hit out against a high table member, but they can fuck up your life for this reason, for lying to them.
Remember how Emily said there was going to be like equations flying?
Yep.
We're there.
Yep.
We are there.
I can't believe Viggo Mortensen is doing this.
Yes. So essentially the case is you guys got married to avoid getting executed. We know. And you need to prove that your marriage is real.
Gotcha.
To this secret society so that we don't fucking kill you.
Okay.
That's the equation.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening in my head. I was like, oh my God. Oh my God.
And so Santino makes a joke and is like, it's a shame we were so discreet before. And John flashes back and remembers like them sneaking around, sneaking in and out of each other's bedrooms, like climbing down from balconies after quickies in ridiculous locations after he just killed somebody. Like we're getting through flashbacks an extensive history between these two that was like 15 years long while John was still an assassin.
Jesus.
Like that they go way, 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 way back. But then John wanted out of the life and Santino let him go. But all of this history is there, but they kept it hidden because of their dynamic, because Santino was his boss, was, you know, all of the things he is, and John was all the things he was. But he also, and he remembers like really kind of loving the sneaking around, and like that was part of it. They really enjoyed the theater of it and nobody knowing, and
it's
all
exciting.
of it. It was sexy. It was hot. Yeah.
We love a good sneak around.
I know. You know, John is in his head and is thinking about all of this as Santino goes down on him and starts to give him a blowjob in the shower.
Nice.
And then John fucks him in bed. They go down to the meeting room. The front desk person is like, I have your dog. And they're like, can you keep him still for the day? Because we have to be in this meeting. We don't know how long it's going to take.
Which is the same in the movies, really.
Yeah.
The front person takes care of the dog while John's doing all the shit.
Doing all the things. So they go into this conference room. They see the tense expressions of everyone around. It's the investigator and then, you know, Winston from the hotel, various colleagues, bodyguards, that sort of thing. Santino and Gianna pushed because they're like, we want to know when the will is going to be read. Like, why are you delaying this? Like, we need to know what's going on with that.
It says everything's okay and either one of you can choose as long as neither of you marry John Wick. That's all it says.
That's all it is. And basically the investigator is like, all of this is on hold until the investigation is done. John Wick is being charged with fraud for his marriage. And they basically, their story is, we have not seen each other for 5 years while John was married to Helen, but we rekindled our relationship after we began to work together again, like last weekend during John's revenge streak. And they say, like, before that 5 years when John retired, we were very close and we had a secret relationship. So that's their true.
Yeah, they do. They tell the truth.
That's their true backstory that they say. And Gianna says, like, I knew about it and I disapproved because John Wick is not Italian and he is not a suitable match for anyone in our family. He doesn't come from what we come from. And Santino admits that he tried to buy out John's contract from Vigo several times back in the day and was denied. And John is like, I didn't know that you did that. I didn't know that you tried to, like,
cared.
I didn't know you cared.
I didn't know you wanted to buy me.
Buy me out. And Santino's
That's
like,
a different book.
yeah, ooh, many. And Santino's like, well, due to my failure to get John out, I couldn't help him. And knew that he would do whatever he needed to leave his previous situation. He wanted out. And John is just absolutely shocked. And they have like a little private moment. It's like, you should have told me. I would have done something. And the investigator interrupts and is like, we're not doing this. Like, I'm going to question you again tomorrow. I'm ending it for today.
We're not doing this.
We're not doing this.
I don't want to know.
Yeah. And they describe the investigator as a like short, middle-aged, very severe looking woman with like black hair and a bun and just like tiny but terrifying.
Gotcha.
But she doesn't have a name. She is the investigator of the entire fic. They go to the rooftop garden at the peninsula. There's a storm going on, and John is like, you should have told me that you tried to like buy my contract and tried to get me out of that situation. And they're kind of like leaning on each other while they do this, like halfway cuddling. And John's like, what did you offer Vigo to like buy him out essentially? And Santino shrugs and goes, half my fortune. I would have recovered in a few years.
Must be fucking nice.
And John says, well, that makes sense. You wanted like my skills. You wanted the boogeyman on your payroll. And Santino goes, of course I did. But I'm capable of wanting more than one thing at a time. And I wanted you also. We could have changed things if we had been partners. So clearly he's been holding this candle for a very, very long time.
Why not 2 for 1 special, baby?
Why not?
Porque no los dos.
Exactly.
And they learn more. John learns more about like why the will not being read is such an issue. And essentially the mob had expanded back into New York while their father was alive. And it was really poorly handled. handled, and the alliances are starting to crack. And so every day that there's an unnamed heir, there's more of a chance that some other mafia family is going to make a move, and that's what we're dealing with here, the threat of war. The dog back in the hotel lobby is very scared because there's a thunderstorm, and he heard gunshots before, and he just do not know. He's scared. And John gets him, and the three of them go back to their honeymoon suite. Aww. And Santino asks if they can just stay together, and they fall asleep after absolutely, I wrote down absolutely disgusting hand jobs with a lot of spit and licking hands and stuff.
It's the descriptor of absolutely disgusting hand jobs.
Just very intimate, very graphic hand jobs.
You know what's interesting? Both of our stories have hand jobs, and that is actually not something that I read a lot about.
Me neither.
Because a lot of the books are a lot about women's pleasure, and a lot about eating out someone, and same thing with a blowjob. But you don't see a hand job.
You don't see a lot of
very
hands.
old fashioned, these hand jobs. Very. You just don't see a lot. You don't read a lot about an absolutely disgusting hand job, or one in which a father interrupts. So, well, you don't read a lot. It's a lot of memories.
Very
are different,
old-fashioned. These hand jobs.
That's a t-shirt.
Please
right
put
there.
that on a t-shirt. Very old-fashioned, and just have a handshake at the bottom.
Very old-fashioned. These hand jobs.
So they wake up again the next morning, 7 a.m. Questioning is to resume at 8. They drop the dog at the reception. Vigo is there, and he has called a witness to speak to the validity of their relationship. He has called Marcus, who is the man that has trained John Wick and who he worked with for a period of time.
Okay.
And he comes in and he's like, "Oh, John, nice to see you. I thought you were retired." And he's like, "I'm not anymore." And John says, "Well," and he's like, "Why am I here?" And John's like, "Well, Santino and I were married." And Marcus looks at him and goes, "About damn time." And the whole room goes silent.
Cute.
And the investigator stops writing, and she goes, "So you aren't surprised?" And John says, "Marcus, I never told you about this." And Marcus says, "You didn't have to. I had a pretty good idea."
Eyes.
Yeah. He was basically, he's like, the way that you talked about him, like, no one is that excited to go work for the Italians. Like, I didn't...
The Irish, different story.
But he was like, no one's like, "Yay, I get to go kill people for the Italian mob. Let's do this." And he's like, I could tell when John left the industry, if you'll call it that he was sad to leave Santino. And Santino's like, "Well, I wanted John to be happy. It was better for him to leave." And John turns to Santino and was like, "I was happy with you. It was everything else that I needed to leave." Meanwhile, the investigator's just taking notes. And she dismisses them so she can question Marcus on her own. That evening, they're allowed to leave the hotel, but they have to be tailed by the investigator. So there's just this tiny woman going behind them. And they go to an art museum so Santino can show John a collection that his father curated and therefore he did. And they're just sitting there looking at art and talking about their feelings and about the nature of grief when they hear an explosion. So there's an explosion like far off. They hear it, and then John takes Santino to the ground just as they hear a second 2 rooms over, and everything goes black. And John comes to and sees Santino and the investigator struggling to get out of kind of rubble that has fallen around them. He decides to get Santino out and kind of like mouths sorry to the investigator.
Oh my God.
He just leaves because he's like, "I don't know if there's going to be another explosion. I have to get my husband out of here." And so they leave, and John's like, "This must be my fault again. It must be like the Russians." And Santino's like, no one knew we were coming, and only one of us is known to spend a lot of time here, which is me and my father. Like, This is the war beginning. This was like another family. Like this was someone trying to come for me.
I immediately was like, "Oh, it's the investigator,
Viggo Mortensen."
Yes.
Yeah. No, it was the beginning of the
Italian war.
The Italians warring with each other.
Okay.
The investigator makes her way out and is like Karen-y about it, and is like, "The high table will not take kindly if one of their own are killed." And Santino's like, "It's your fault for not reading the will soon enough." And so she like basically goes like, "Even though I've got no true hard evidence about your past relationship, your behavior is believable enough that you can travel freely, but I have to come with you. You're no longer confined to the hotel." So they go back to Naples. They're on the estate. They basically have sex in bed because they both get slightly injured, and so it's a good in the museum explosion. So it's a good excuse to stay in bed and fuck all day.
Nice.
It's great. We love it. And there is so like they're doing a thing where they're talking about business while fucking. Like they're talking
That's
about
hot.
I think it's super hot.
I was gonna say it's always fun.
It's fun type of banter.
Yes.
And they're talking about how Gianna wants them back in New York, but
Well, we just brought up our sister in bed.
yeah. It's fine. But like as a business partner.
Business is fun. Well, when you mention a family member, it's different.
And John's like, maybe we should go back to New York. And Santino says, I'm not agreeing to anything while you're still inside me.
Good for him to set boundaries.
Ayo.
Yeah. So they start to bicker about various things. They get to fall back into old patterns. And they just talk about like the ways that they've supported each other in the past. I'm kind of yada-yadaing over this, but the relationship starts to develop. They are making out in an armory one day when there's a knock. So one of the rival gangs has moved on a subgroup of Santino's cousins. They're kind of their deputies and killed one of his cousins. And Santino is in a rage. He's out for revenge. He wants to basically burn down their main supply warehouse and take them all out to kind of get his power back.
A little bit of an Italian temper, if you
Yes. Gianna says that is not what we should do. We need to bide our time. Santino's like, no, we're doing this. And without even looking at John, he says, John, go take care of it.
Ooh.
Go take these people out.
I don't know if I like that.
And John does, but the entire time he is so angry. He's so upset. He's like going through tearing apart this warehouse and the whole time thinking about how dare my husband ask me to do this. Stab. This is really inappropriate of him to ask me to do this.
It wasn't even an ask. It was like an order.
It was an order.
Yes.
He gave him an order
Which
and
is
said,
worse.
Yep, Mr. Waco,
It is
take care of this.
icky.
It is icky. And so when he arrives back, Santino says, is it done? And John says, si, Signor D'Antonio, and walks away.
Oh, he's in trouble now.
He's angry. A couple days later, 10 minutes before the funeral for the cousin that got murdered, Santino's like, we need to talk about this. And John is like, no, we don't. We're about to go to this funeral. And Santino's like, we need to talk about it. And John is like, we were married for less than a month and then you sent me out to kill for you. And Santino's like, it was an emergency. And John says, they are all emergencies. That was not okay. If you'd stopped to explain, I would have offered to help, but you gave me an order and expected me to follow it. John grabs Santino's hand and pulls him close and whispers in his ear, you reminded me of your father that night, and then walks away.
Fathers are always making their way in.
Yeah.
There are certain times when somebody could say, oh, you remind me of your mom. And I'll be like, so flattered. But when Jake says something about, oh, wow, you sounded a lot like your dad, I am ready to fight. Like, It's like, I'm so sorry. In what way am I like Jimmy? Like, I just...
Give me some specifics.
Yeah,
then.
why don't you just tell me exactly what you think reminded you of me of my dad? I don't know if all that worked out, but that's how angry I am.
It's always during an intimate moment, too. It's super weird.
And so during the funeral, John is just seething, and so is Santino. And they return to the villa as soon as the door closes. Santino says, take it back.
Oh,
take
Jesus.
back what you said. And he's trying to like defend the order that he gave. And John just keeps saying, like, I don't take orders anymore. I help when I want. That has to be the way this works. And finally, Santino relents and says, but say it. Say, I will never be like my father. And John relents and it's like, you're not like him. You're better than him. I'm asking you to stay that way and not ever do that shit to me again. And Santino is like, I cannot allow you to say that to me ever again. If you ever say that to me again, then you will be killed.
Damn.
I can't. That is a betrayal in our relationship. They rise early the next day as the will is to be read.
Finally, I'm so excited.
Santino like wakes up really early and is like, I have business. I'll be back before the will is read. And everyone is super nervous. Like, where is he? And John is starting to worry when he opens up the door and the dog runs out.
Was the dog in November.
The dog was in the United States because
they
they
were
were
in
in
Naples this
they
whole
were in
time.
Naples, and Santino found a way to get the dog across country lines and through customs so they could be with John. So the will arrives. The investigator, because she's a member of the High Table and is there already, is going to read the will.
Love that.
Both siblings go to her. It's like a giant wooden chest with like a skull on it. Both siblings like
one piece of paper inside.
Yes.
My son. Done.
Right.
My daughter.
They each have a key. They each give her their key, and she uses both to open the chest. And
Okay.
it's this like stack of papers tied with a black ribbon with a black wax seal.
Wow.
It's so dramatic.
Italian drama.
It's so
man.
dramatic. And that is exactly what I would picture in the movie, too.
Yes.
It's so dramatic.
So dramatic, like very sepia toned, everything probably. And so, but the official decision is that Gianna inherits the seat at the High Table.
Ooh.
Her brother inherits Italy and all the wars that come with it. So he will manage the mob arm of the family, and she gets the big seat at the High Table.
Okay. So more like she manages the politics and he manages
the secret society act.
Okay, interesting. I mean, honestly, great.
Yep.
Great for both of them.
Divide and conquer. He's pissed.
Oh.
He wanted the big seat. He, for a moment, goes, John, I can't order you to kill my sister, right? Which is what happens in the second movie.
Correct.
He orders, that's like the whole
That's
thing.
how they're all introduced.
With the second movie is he ordered, and he's like, John, I can't order you to kill her, right? You're sure? You're absolutely sure? And he's like, no, I will not be doing that. And he's like, okay. And they like talk him down. So the final thing that they need to do is they need to attend Gianna's coronation. So they check back into the peninsula. The front desk is very happy to see the dog.
Love that. Love that.
Gianna summons John for a walk right before her coronation and asks for no guards and is like, we'll walk along the second floor. And she admits, she's like, you know, my brother is smart. He could have won the seat if he'd only married into another high table family while our father was alive. But he didn't, because he loved you so much. And he purposely didn't make that move. All he had to do was do that. And I knew that if I could get him to marry you, that my seat would be secure and he would never try to take it in any real way.
Sneaky.
Yeah. And so she's like, listen, the other thing that you need to know is that despite the investigator ruling your marriage legitimate and in killing the case for you, Vigo can still appeal next year because he's a high table member. So he can appeal the decision and you guys are going to have to get investigated all over again. But since I'm a member of the high table now, maybe I can make that go away as long as the two of you shut the fuck up and know your place and don't try to challenge me.
I respect her.
Yes,
Huh.
me too.
I respect her.
Yes.
Interesting.
And so John just kind of is absorbing all of this. And then there's a shout from downstairs and he immediately goes into assassin mode. But it's just Gianna's bodyguard trying to wrestle her fox fur family heirloom coat from the dog's mouth.
Oh my God.
Good boy.
And the dog is
my
just
God.
like shaking it and under a bed and thinks it's a very fun game. And she's very upset. She's like, I have a spare one. Just get that dog out of my room.
Oh my God.
And so the dog leaves with the coat still in his mouth.
Love that.
Santino is in an absolutely foul mood when John tells him all of this, but then he sees the coat and he feels a little bit better.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, I like that.
Well, at least we ruined her day.
Yes. And so then at the actual like secret ceremony coronation event thing, she's like in head to toe sequins, looking
love.
beautiful, wearing this coat. And John and Santino are directly behind her because brothers. And John cracks Santino up by going, that coat doesn't match as well as the other one would. And manages to break him. And in the second movie, if you'll remember, when John Wick goes to kill Gianna, her special suite in the peninsula has a pool in it.
Yes.
In the middle of the coronation, Santino's like, I gotta get out of here. I'm sick of talking to people about how happy I am for my sister when I'm not. And they go to Gianna's rooms.
Oh,
And Santino says, can we just stay here and you can fuck me in this pool?
nice.
And John like raises his eyebrows and locks the door and goes, we don't have much time. We'd better hurry. And Santino's like, this is not like you at all. This is insane, as he's stripping off clothes. He's like, this is ridiculous, as he takes off his suit jacket. I can't believe we're going to do this. Takes off his pants. And they have sex, and it's lovely. They like talk about fucking in the family catacombs and being depraved together. It's great. They love each
that.
other. They love each other. And Santino in the middle of it says like, I have no regrets. I wouldn't change a thing about the two of us, even though we're really fucked up. And your face was beautiful when you saw me walk into the house with a grenade launcher.
I love that.
At the end of the day, the investigator finds in their favor their marriage is genuine in every possible way. John swears that he can see her kind of smiling, but it must be a trick of the light. Santino comes into the room later with their dog and asks what the plan is for their honeymoon. And John says, well, we can kind of just go anywhere in Italy, right? And so they get a car and he says, point me in a direction. And Santino points and then they just start driving. And basically that's the end of it. Santino says, thank you for everything you've done. You're welcome. John says, thank you for marrying me. Santino makes a dismissive gesture. It was no trouble. They look at each other and then look away, hiding smiles as John leads the car out of the continental grounds onto the roads of Rome. It's going to be a good day. And that's it.
That was fun.
Isn't it fun?
That was
I
a
thought
romp.
it was fun.
That was a romp.
I thought it was a romp. And then my game is really just a question. John Wick famously killed 3 guys with a pencil. What is the most creative thing you think you could use to murder somebody?
Oh, well, Jake surprises me every day with things he finds in my house that he could possibly kill himself with.
Wait. Are we talking about killing someone and getting away with it? Like, do we want a murder weapon that's smart, or just like something interesting that you're not gonna, no matter what happens, you're not gonna get caught. We don't have to worry about the cops.
Let's go John Wick rules and say it's just fun. It's just fun and interesting.
As I look around my apartment.
Yeah.
I have a 4-foot tall wine glass that I keep scarves in. Now, in a normal bar fight, as we all know, someone would break glass or a bottle and stab someone.
You just pick up
Imagine picking up this 4-foot tall wine glass, smashing the top of it, and trying to impale someone.
Can you pick
That
it?
is
It's
clever.
almost as tall as you are, though. Could you even pick
First
it
of all,
up?
don't tell the audience how tall I am.
They don't know from the live show.
No, only the people in Chicago know. No, I can pick it up easily.
Amazing.
Yeah. I think that would be pretty creative.
I love that.
I have the slickest floors in Chicago.
Amazing.
Like, if you go to my house, you and come in socks, you will absolutely fall on your ass.
I love that.
I don't know what it is. I don't know if they like polished it. It's wooden floors too.
Nice.
So I'm really impressed by it. But all I would need to do is just lift a rug and they would be on their asses.
Great. Kill somebody with your floors.
Yeah.
Okay, what would you do though? Do you want to borrow my wine glass?
Honestly, I bet that I could.
You've got some weird shit in your house.
I've got some weird shit, but I also just love the idea of like just stuff that happens to be in my purse. Like I have like my earbuds have pointy ends on them, and I bet that if I pushed them hard enough into somebody's eye, I could do some real damage.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, that was John Wick. That was what was it called? Something about
Stall for time.
Stall for time. Unholy Union by NeverWinterThistle.
I really liked that.
Thank you.
That was a fun one. I think we
a
both
romp,
had
yeah.
some really. Mine was ridiculous, silly, dumb. Yours was like cool, silly, dumb.
Cool, silly, dumb.
Yeah.
It's Secret Society still is not my jam.
Yeah.
I'm never gonna seek it out.
No. We don't ever seek it out. It just
It
comes
happens
to
to
us.
you.
It comes to us.
Secret Society happens to you. Am I giving my raccoon?
Yes, give us
yes,
your
yes.
raccoon.
Give us your
I
raccoons.
would definitely. Here's the thing: is that my raccoon rating has only to do with what I enjoyed,
Yes.
and not necessarily to do with who had the better Secret Society. Because if it was the better Secret Society, Jessica, you would win.
Oh, thanks.
But it was too unhinged, Emily. Like that was. It was just too much.
There's a lot.
Like I've got to give you a 4 raccoon
Wow.
rating.
Good for
Thank
you.
you.
For the pure amount of like I knew where it was going, and then when it went there, I went no,
And we knew, and we still were surprised.
yeah. But it's more of like I'm just hoping it's not going there. But well, what a crazy! I would never in a million years think of John Wick. That pairing sounded like it was really, and like here's the thing, it sounded good. in my mind, I was like, oh, well, maybe I could be okay with a secret society if it's like already established like this and you're reading it and you don't have to establish it in the book or in what you're reading. Maybe that's been my problem all this time.
Yeah.
It's not. I don't like secret societies.
I was going to say, if you do want, like, literally the first thing that came to mind when you said it was The Ritual by Chantal Tessier.
Yeah.
But it's dark, but it's like, that is what you will get with KUs. And it's not a bad book, but it's a lot. So if that is something that you do want to try, I do recommend it. But lots of trigger warnings. That's with a lot of those secret society books.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, was there anything that we touched on or anything on your beautiful list of things you hate that you want to talk about next episode?
Can I give you guys a list and you guys can choose from them?
Yep.
All right. I had dragon riders, not dragon shifters.
Like a fourth wing.
Yeah, like a fourth wing.
Okay.
We would not do fourth wing on here, but yes.
God,
I'm telling, that's more for the people.
Okay. I was like, I would hope not. But like, if you did find a fourth wing fan fiction that seemed up your alley.
How to Train Your Dragon is what
I would.
There is a huge. There are
I could imagine.
tens of thousands of How to Train Your Dragon.
People love that cartoon.
Oh yes.
Never seen it.
Really?
I feel like I should.
Yeah.
Oh, it's delightful.
You would cry.
Yeah, you would.
It will make you feel things.
Ugh.
Yeah, it's great.
So
It's good.
Dragon Riders.
Dragon Riders.
Inanimate objects gaining sentience is really tough for me.
It keeps coming up.
Yeah, and there's some insane shit in the Kindle world.
Yes, there is.
For
If we want
inanimate
it, we can
objects.
try it, and I can just see what I can find. And if I can't find anything, then I'll just pick something as close as I possibly can.
Why don't we say it's either inanimate objects or dragon riders, and then we surprise her next episode
I'm okay with
because
that.
we'll look up which one's easier.
Because we're not sure about either one.
We're not sure about either one.
You guys, I'm so brain dead. By the time we get back here, I'm going to be like, well, what did we choose?
I think that's more fun because it's always an exciting, new thing for you.
It's always a surprise.
Yeah, it's always a surprise.
The surprise will be if it's going to be an inanimate object story or a Dragon Rider story.
Correct.
I love that. Great. Surprise.
Yeah, and we'll probably talk about it beforehand just so we know.
Yeah, you guys can conspire. I understand.
we talk constantly about what we're reading.
we have to actively stop ourselves and be like, we need to save this for the podcast.
That's true. That is what makes the live show fun, though, because we can commiserate together about our ridiculous choices.
Yeah.
Which I'm so excited. This will go out afterwards. But
yeah.
Hey, listen to our Halloween live show.
Yeah.
We're recording it this coming weekend in Recording World, so
Yeah.
it'll
It's gonna
be out.
great. I'm excited.
Yeah, me too.
It's gonna be fun.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank
Come
you.
back next week for something.
Episode 5.
Episode
something.
5. Oh my god! Actually, you're halfway done with your season.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, this was the
guys.
halfway point.
This was the halfway point. So now you have 3 more episodes
3
left.
more.
Well, 4 more
guys.
technically, but you just picked
Yeah.
a theme. So
Don't worry. I'll be talking to you guys about other crazy
rank
books.
your top themes because you got 3
Choose
more after
wisely
this.
now.
Oh, no. I'll let you guys see the list and pick for yourselves.
No, that makes it work. Well, maybe. Okay. Well, we're just 2 raccoons.
Talking about
The best
trash in town.
Bye.
Femmes Reading Filth is hosted, produced, and edited by Emily Barusian and Jessica Mall. Intro music by Tom Lehrer. Outro music by David Reddick. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Femmes Reading Filth. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Bye.